Well, I remember one of the things that Mandela said when he first took power was that he didn't want black people to take revenge against the white people of South Africa. He wanted a society where everyone coexisted. Was that actually the case, though?
Did he actually say that? I mean,
Yeah, he said that.
well, yeah, look, I wouldn't have, that would have been very bad for the black people, you know. The white people are, the white people are not pussies in this country, you know. The white men in this country are serious, if you understand what I mean. We wouldn't have wanted something like that to happen. It would have been a terrible thing to happen, you know. It's not like we would all run away, you know. It was 450 white men and women who defeated 10,000 Zulus at the Battle of Blood River and left 6,000 of them dead, you know. So, and not one injury to a white person. So no, the white people, that's a good thing it didn't, because it would have been stupid. But it was a very nice thing for Mandela to try and say to people. On the other hand, they did start going into gangs of, you know, blacks did start going into white people's homes and just shooting them in their beds, and, you know, here and there, you know, they came into my home.
What's up, good people? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back for another video. Now, I guess as a disclaimer part of this video, I need to tell you that I'm going to give you a sneak peek into the mind of a very, very racist human being. And let me tell you something. Every time you think you've really had it all, someone just comes along and proudly exposes or ignorantly exposes the very mindset that really has built and sustained white supremacy. That's racism, that's colonialism, apartheid, segregation, all of those. So in this video, Errol Musk, that's the father of Elon Musk, was asked about Mandela's famous decision to discourage black South Africans from taking revenge on white settlers. That is after apartheid, after Mandela, took presidency. But most people would actually, and many people praised Mandela for choosing peace over violence, despite what he himself had gone through, what South Africans, black South Africans, had gone through over that period of time. But for racists like Elon Musk's father, Errol, he used that moment to flex. It's not a very old interview, to brag, you know, to imply that white settlers would have annihilated or unalive black South Africans if anything, if they dared anything. You know, anything is, of course, revenge. And I want you to understand that that's not ignorance. That's masterclass racist delusion. So let's watch a little more and we'll be back.
So 1990, Mandela gets out of prison, and then he gets elected as the first black president of South Africa. And like, how massive of a change was this in South Africa?
Well, it was very harsh. You know, the white people, you know, didn't have much faith in black people running the country, you know. And we'd also seen, you know, what happened to Rhodesia, you know, which is today a completely defunct, destroyed country that doesn't exist. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's not an existing country. Has no functioning. It's not a functioning country. That's Rhodesia. It's the next country up. And so the white people here were terrified of what this meant. And, you know, in the beginning, we actually, through Mandela, keeping many of the existing government structures in place, things weren't that bad, but people had no faith, no faith in things getting better, you know. And so people were very, very worried, and everybody, May and her whole family, left the country. Everybody in her family left the country. You know, May and her whole family, they all left the country. My partner had left the country much earlier before, but nearly everybody we knew who could leave left the country. And so, yeah, it was not good. It was not great.
Well, I remember one of the things that Mandela said when he first took power was that he didn't want black people to take revenge against the white people of South Africa. he wanted a society where everyone coexisted. Was that actually the case, though?
Did he actually say that? I mean,
Yeah, he said
well,
that.
yeah, look, I wouldn't have, that would have been very bad for the black people, you know. The white people are not pussies in this country, you know. The white men in this country are serious, if you understand what I mean. We wouldn't have wanted something like that to happen. It would have been a terrible thing to happen, you know. It's not like we would all run away, you know. It was 450 white men and women who defeated 10,000 Zulus at the Battle of Blood River and left 6,000 of them dead, you know. So, and not one injury to a white person. So no, the white people, that's a good thing it didn't, because it would have been stupid. But it was a very nice thing for Mandela to try and say to people. On the other hand, they did start going into gangs of, you know, blacks did start going into white people's homes and just shooting them in their beds, and, you know, here and there, you know, they came into my home on one occasion, 7 or 8 of them, and, you know, I dispatched 3 of them to the next world, and then the rest ran away. But they fired 52 rounds at me.
On. I want to go deeply into the story here, since you.
Yes, they fired 52 rounds at me. I fired 2 rounds.
Okay, so let's go ahead and have the setting. So this was at night. You're at home asleep in your house?
No, I had a home. The home on the horse stud that we had, I still kept it all the years, and I was renting it out, and I was living in Pretoria. By that stage, I had a new child. She was 6 years old, Alexandra. She now lives in Texas, in Austin. And I went over with her when she was 6 years old to see how the house looked, because it's a big house, and I painted it out, you know, with some sort of white paint and stuff. And I went to see how the painters were getting on. It was 5 o'clock or so in the evening. Got there, the painters were about leaving, and we had a look at the house. We luckily put on all the lights, and then the painters left. And my daughter said we used to live there for a while, and my daughter said she'd like to have a bath in the main bathroom. So I ran a bath for her, and then I heard some noise in the lounge area, and I went up to the lounge. This was probably about 6 o'clock in the evening in about March, so dusk, not nighttime, not daytime. And there were a bunch of black men in the lounge. And my initial thought was, I had an electric fence around the property, and my initial thought was, how on earth did they get through the electric fence? Because I built that fence myself. And then I thought maybe they want to rent. So I said, can I help you? And the lead one, who had a jacket and tie on, actually, raised his left arm towards me, and thought he wanted to shake hands or something. But he immediately fired a gun at me. You know, the sparks, I just saw the sparks my way. I could have moved, I don't know what I did, but it didn't hit me. It hit a glass door behind me and shattered the door. And then I realized, I suppose, and then all happening very quickly, I ran back down to the bathroom in the main bedroom where I'd left. We always carried a weapon. In fact, I still carry a weapon. And it's a Magnum, so I carried a 357 Magnum, and I went to the bathroom where I'd put it on a shelf when I ran the bath, away from my daughter, grabbed the Magnum, and as they came down the passage, they were coming down the passage, I stood at the entrance, the main bedroom entrance to the passage, and I took the one in front out, you know, with a bullet through the head, and that bullet actually went into the one behind him as well. And then they ran back. And then a while later, when we were like in a standoff situation, I looked again, and there was another one on his knees waiting for me to look out. And as I looked out, we both shot at the same time. I shot him in the groin. I saw the bullet go into his groin because I was right behind the bullet. And he fired at me, and it would have hit me in the middle of my chest, but it actually went into the frame, aluminum frame of a sliding door that was between me and him, or you know, a folding door, and so I would have been killed. But anyway, he disappeared. We were able to. They'd fired 52 shots. The police collected all the shells that they fired. I fired from a revolver, no shells. I only fired 2 shots, and yeah, the house was a wreck. But my daughter and I were able to escape through a window in the main bedroom that had been completely shot out. So we were able to jump through that into the garden and escape, a picture window out into the garden and escape. And yeah, so that was that.
Okay, welcome back. So, there's what Mandela said versus what racists like Errol Musk had, you know? So Mandela's message was quite simple. We move on together. We forge forward together. A message of unity, forgiveness, rebuilding a country broken by apartheid or by white supremacy. But in Errol's mind, Mandela didn't choose peace out of leadership because, yeah, he can understand. No, he believes that Mandela did it because he feared white people. He feared white retaliation. And just because white settlers in South Africa were too powerful. That's what he thinks. And because, you know, they would wipe out the black majority. He's even once had saying that they fed black people, and that's why the black people in South Africa are a majority. Black people in Africa are a majority because they were fed by white settlers. Yeah, that's the mind. So see the mindset. Yeah, Mandela extends an olive branch of peace, and these people turn it into a victory lap for, you know, apartheid nostalgia. This is the psychology of someone who cannot imagine that black people choosing peace out of strength. You know, that black people can choose peace, not because they fear, but because peace in itself is strength. Yeah. So what you see here is full colonial mindset on display. Colonial mindset on display. So Errol Musk's response wasn't just like tone deaf. No, it was a time capsule of white supremacist thinking, or the kind of thinking that white supremacy cultivates in their minds. You know, white settlers see themselves as, you know, natural rulers, and black resistance is often interpreted as chaos. And when we talk about black resistance, this is across wherever there are black people and they have fought back in Africa, in the Caribbean, in America, in South America, wherever that you see black people. And they think reconciliation, they read reconciliation as submission. They feel like, you know, that's how bad these people, their thought process is. And their own violence is always seen as protection, as putting things in order. So he's basically saying, we oppressed you, and if you know you retaliate, we would have destroyed all of you. You know. So this is not history. This is not fact. This is colonial fantasy. I'd call it colonial fantasy. The same delusion that justified land theft, apartheid policies, Jim Crow, racism today, colonialism, and generations of racial terror. Yeah. So the audacity and the amnesia, you know. So what's really shocking for me here is how Errol talks as if, or how this terrible gentleman talks as if white settlers were just innocent bystanders in the case of apartheid in South Africa, as if apartheid just magically appeared from the sky, as if he forgets that, you know, who stole the land, who banned black people from voting, who built the system where white people enjoyed everything and black people were crushed at the bottom in South Africa, in Africa, in the Caribbean, in America, you know, who used violence to maintain a system of oppression and injustice for decades. He talks like those white settlers in South Africa are victims in any way, and they're not, as if they're not the architects of the chaos of apartheid, of white supremacy. from back in the days to date. So this is the arrogance of someone so cushioned by, well, his own white privilege and delusion, that he believes that suffering only becomes real if and when faced by white people, or when white people feel it. So thinking about this, it really, connects to his more recent interview on or his comments on CNN. And if you haven't heard what he said on CNN, you can check on one of our previous videos. But here's the kicker. It's not a one time moment, this kind of thinking by this guy. This is the same man who recently said that if white Americans become the minority in America, he was asked what he thinks that in about 20 years time, America will cease to become a white majority country. That means other people probably will have overtaken them, could be black people. And he said that America would go down. That was very bad. He said that is, quote unquote, very bad, and that America would go back to the jungle. He goes ahead to ask the interviewer if people in America don't love good things, like they don't love electric cars, they don't love technology, because he believes in one thing. You notice the pattern. White majority is equal to civilization for him. Black majority is equal to collapse and the jungle. That's his mindset. So
the big concern at the moment, and why I think South Africa is a big talking point in the US right now, is America in the next 20 years will become, for the first time in its history, a minority white country.
Well, that will be a very, very bad thing to happen. You want to see the US go down? Why? Oh, you don't like cars and electric cars, and you don't like technology, or what is it? You want to go back to the jungle, or?
If the US becomes a minority white country.
Yes.
So there's Latinas, there's blacks, there's people from all different races make up the majority, and then, it could be 48% white people. Do you really think the US is doomed if it goes under?
Yes, it goes under then.
Seriously?
Yes, of course. You see, if you take South Africa, we have a small white population that projects the European culture, or what we learned from Europe.
And oppressed millions of black people.
No.
For decades.
How do you oppress? We gave them work, we fed them. They grew from a tiny little group into a massive group. That's not oppression, that's feeding them. Do you understand? You only grow big if you get fed. You only start at 800 and become 50 million if you get fed. We fed them, for crying out loud. Enough with this nonsense.
But so you understand, because the black population was so oppressed under apartheid.
Well, we never saw this oppression you're talking about.
You never saw it.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, because you're white.
this is the same story that racists have held and told for over 500 years, of living. It is the same fear that fueled apartheid, Jim Crow, colonization, segregation, mass incarcerations. It is the fear of losing power. And that's why I always say it is an inherently deep-rooted inferiority complex. The same fear of facing the same brutality they have inflicted on other people. They really feel like everybody else is as terrible as them, that when they have power, they control power, then they'll subject them to what they have subjected other people, to what they have inflicted on other people. They know what they did, and that's why they are terrified of them never being in control. So what Errol Musk's mindset kind of reveals today, and he's not an isolated case. He's not the only one who thinks like this, for sure. There are very many people like him. It's not just an answer to a question on CNN or on these videos. He reveals the operating system of white supremacy and white supremacists. Rewrite the past, justify oppression, pretend you're the victim or play the victim, project violence on black people, and above all, believe that without white rule, the world will collapse. And they try to really sell this kind of fear to Americans. And it's bad that there is an obvious decline in the American empire currently because of its historical injustice. It's a country that is, is rotting from the inside because of the people that have held the power, and they're not willing to let someone else make things right, and they're not even willing to be held accountable for what they have done historically, and if America collapses and fails today, you see, many people might want to think that the world will stop or the world itself will collapse. No, it won't collapse. The world will just realign and continue, sadly, and painfully, that is the truth. So really, Mandela's forgiveness confuses people like Errol Musk and white supremacists. Yeah, they confuses white supremacists because they can't imagine mercy coming from a people they have oppressed that much. They can't imagine in America today that black people will rule just, with justice, because they don't understand. They know nothing about justice. They have oppressed everybody for centuries, from Africa to Australia to Asia to the Americas. They have always oppressed people. So they can't understand someone being in power and still being just, ruling with justice. They don't understand that concept. They can't imagine moral leadership from a people that they look down upon, Instead of saying, for example, we are lucky that Mandela chose peace over violence, he says, well, we would have destroyed them. You see, that's projection, because he was supposed to really comment on Mandela's noble act of choosing peace when he had an option to not choose peace, when he had everything that was, done to him. Most people, in fact, would have gone for revenge, So this is not strength. This is fear. This is inferiority complex, just wrapped in delusion. Yeah, so that is my take. That's what I had for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something from it. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and share it as well. And if you're new to the channel, if you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll really, really appreciate. So that's the end of this video, and I'll see you in the next.